Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit here, back again with My Hero Academia Season 4, and we are on Episode 8. And in the last episode, we were gearing up for the assault on the Shihei Hisaikai base of operations to retrieve Eri and get her out of the hands of Overhaul, who has been using her body for those bullets that tamper with quirks and disable them for a short period of time. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised actually last episode that it actually continued up until a point. Like, I was expecting it to stop, you know, like a bit earlier, and we didn't. You know, we got to see like a little more than what I'd expected. So they managed to. This show manages to fill out like every episode with something interesting, and you know, I just love it for that. There's never been an episode where I've just been like, oh, I could have done without that. You know, so it's fantastic. Now here's the thing: the retrieving Eri operation that we've got going on here, I don't know how well it's going to go, and I'm a bit worried because at the end of last episode we had Overhaul talk about the 8 bullets, or as some people commented, they were actually known as the 8 precepts of death, which I much prefer that title, to be honest, but you know, it is what it is. Essentially they are expendable. Now the reason why I'm worried about how this operation's really going to go is because I don't see how. Like, I don't know, I feel like it would be a bit of a letdown if all of them were to just get captured or killed, and then that's that. Because I feel like the Shihei Hisaikai as a group is something that we've literally just gotten to know, really, like, you know, over the course of this season, and these, you know, these 7 episodes previous. And if they were all to just, you know, get taken out in this one operation, then it would be a bit of a buzzkill, I would think, a bit of a cockblock, because I feel like it's better if you just, like, you know, maybe like a couple of them may get taken out, but the fact is that he was calling them all expendable, you know what I mean? It just makes me think, like, is there anybody else that, there's got to be, right, that Overhaul can sort of call upon to, like, you know, he's got to have more in his entourage than just 8 expendable people, you know, but yeah, I mean, the fact is that story-wise, I don't see all of the 8 bullets being taken out in this one operation, which makes me believe that, like, you know, how is it really going to go? It's going to have to be a snatch and grab, really, you know, and Overhaul's already on his way to get Eri now, so he doesn't really have much time. They don't really have much time to grab Eri and get the hell out of there, at least, you know, without running into Overhaul himself. So I don't know, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. The only really other thing that I really want to touch on is Overhaul's father and how that went down, and I'm not really sure you know, what the deal is with him. I imagine we'll get more information on that, of course, as the season progresses, but you know, the only thing we got from Overhaul was, you know, it's going to get noisy, and that's pretty much all he said. You know, I mean, it looks like he's just left him there. We didn't really hear the rest of the conversation, and of course, because otherwise, you know, it would be tough to get out with his dad, I think, considering what condition he's in, unless he just disassembled them all and, like, he just had like a little like all that was left of him was like a toe, and he like shoved it in his pocket, and then he gets out of there, reassembles them again. And like, the thing is that we need a bit more information on that quirk, Overhaul's quirk, and like, to what degree can he disassemble somebody to reassemble them again, you know? Because I feel like if you were to disassemble like the brain, I don't know if I feel like that would be like the limit of his quirk. Like, he can't like reassemble something like completely. Like, I think it would have to be something limiting him there, and it's possibly going to be the brain, isn't it? I'd imagine. But I don't know. I'm sure we'll get more information on that as the season progresses. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So yeah, we're just going to get into episode 8 and see what we get. So yeah, if you do want to watch the full reaction to this completely unedited, then you can do by going over to my Patreon and becoming a full-length tier Patreon over there. So yeah, the link is in the description for that. But yeah, there's nothing else to really talk about in this pre-discussion, so we're going to get in episode 8 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 8. All right, so basically a full episode dedicated to Tamaki, which I like, because I mean, out of the three of the big three, I like Mirio's, and it's great the fact that it was a quirk that really needed, you really needed to work at to kind of master, but Tamaki's is crazy. Because it seemingly like has no end to it, which I really like. It's not really something that a lot of other quirks have. Like in this show, you generally what you'll find is that like the quirks that people have, there's sort of like setbacks or limits to what they can do depending on and how they use them, and sort of that kind of thing. Whereas with Tamaki's, I'm not really noticing a downside. When we saw it a couple episodes ago, or a few episodes ago now, for the first time, I was, just on the surface, it was incredible. Just the fact that he can eat food, and then gain like the advantages of whatever it was that he ate, and that was that. And now in this episode, he he ate the crystals and used the crystals, so it doesn't even have to be food. Like he can eat anything then, and that gives him some. That's like it's nuts. It means like there's to anything that he can eat, there's no end to really like. That's crazy. And then the other thing is that he can mix and match the different DNAs to create different things. Like the quirk is nuts. It's definitely like one of my favorite quirks. You know what I mean? And the fact is that with so many characters that this show has, it honestly it boggles my mind that like the kind of imagination you have to have in order to come up with so many different quirks. Like, and I know that like like there are some that kind of get a bit rehashed, but like slightly differed. Like for example, like the crystallized thing. I'm not really sure how much it really differs from the likes of Kirishima's or fucking what's his name, the guy who's got the same name twice, Tetsu, that guy. It's just like obviously a sort of just a different variation of that. So it's fairly similar, but yeah, I mean, his quirk is insane, and this episode just demonstrates like just the lengths that he can go to, like just the different combinations he can come up with is just endless. It's crazy. It's no wonder he's part of the big three, and it was basically playing like throughout the entire episode. It was the idea is that he has a problem with self-confidence, but that when he gets confident, that is when he's at his best. And that's the thing that is sort of that sort of puts him down. But like at his best, fucking hell, just crazy. I guess he can't feel the pain of like when his tentacles are getting gnawed off, sliced and stuff. I guess he doesn't really feel them. I don't like there's some things that I don't really get with the Setsuno guy. So his quirk's larceny, and so it's essentially the power to disarm somebody, and he grabs the thing. But how the fuck, like, I don't understand how he can take the tentacles off. How does that work? Because I was under the impression that Tamaki's quirk is it changes his limbs or his body to that. It's like it's like a transformation. And like like the power to like disarm somebody is an extent like it's an extended weapon. Like it's not part of like their fucking their body that he's taken away, but the tentacles and like all that kind of stuff is though, right? So that I mean, I mean, who am I to really, say like, no, that can't be right? Because I mean, surely it would have been something that the creator would have thought about, like, because that's not something that I think. I think that everybody that watched this episode, everyone that watches this episode, will have thought the same thing. Like, how is he taking the tentacles? Because I'm sure it's like it's part of his body, isn't it? Like when he was using the tentacles and stuff, it's like they come out of his fingers. Like well, they don't even come out. They are the fingers. I don't know. It's crazy. So yeah, larceny. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't know if anybody else did. When Fat Gum was in the room and he was saying, like, try and shoot me, like my quirk's like fat absorption. I was thinking back to episode 12, season 1, where All Might's like, when he says, you said your quirk was only shock absorption, not nullification. For some reason, like in my head, as soon as he said that, like Fat Gum's, it just made me laugh, because it was like, my quirk's only fat absorption, not nullification. Jeez. Fat nullification. I'm not even sure that would be the same thing as what, I mean, fat nullification, then I guess he just wouldn't be fat, would he? If it nullified his fat. But yeah, anyway, so we had that guy, we had Sesano. We also had Yu Hojo, which was obviously the crystallized guy. And then Sora Mitsu, whose quirk is just labelled food. And he can digest anything immediately, so there's no end to what he can eat. That's gotta suck. Like, surely that's gotta suck. Like, because it feels like he's not. Well, no, because he did say yum, seafood. I guess the taste buds will remain the same, so you can get the taste of something. But surely you would never. That would suck as a quirk, because you would never feel. You would never get that feeling of like being satisfied with a meal, would you? That would suck. That would be horrible. It would be like having a quirk where you're never allowed to sleep. Like it would just suck, you know. Oh god! Like, no wonder the guy's a villain. You know what I mean? He's got to be always pissed off at the fact he just can't get a fucking, you can't get a satisfactory meal. So yeah, the whole thing with because they kept obviously referring to the three guys and the bonds that they the bond that they have between each other, obviously mirroring the Tamaki thing, and the sort of the bond that he clearly has with Mirio more than Hado. I'd imagine that Hado came in elsewhere. It seemed like the childhood sort of friends was only with Mirio, and then I guess Hado come in later. I was so confused because the voice came up first, and I thought it was Hado at first that was talking to Tamaki, but I guess it's obviously because it's when Mirio was a kid, so it's gonna be a bit higher pitched. But it sounded like Hado. Like, if I'd closed my eyes throughout the whole thing and just you listen to when he was a kid, when he's talking there, I would have thought that was Hado. But yeah. What else? So at the very beginning, I thought it was interesting, the whole thing, the fact that he's called Suneater. And that was something that I did sort of wonder when he was called that a few episodes back, because I was like, Suneater, why would it be Suneater? Because back then obviously we knew that he was able to eat food and then gain attributes from what he ate, and I was like, Suneater, what does that mean? Like, why would it be like, I get the eater part because he has to eat in order to get the the desired effect and whatever, but what's the sun got to do with it? I know it kind of makes sense, like it's an interesting thing, because whereas every other character of the show, the focus around either their hero name or any drama or anything like that tends to work around the person's quirk, and when they're choosing their hero name, generally that fits into the name that they choose. Whereas with Tamaki, it's completely different, and it's the his character, it's not about the quirk, it's about him mentally. You know, and it's not the limitations of the quirk that undoes him, but the fact that mentally he's, you know, he's not really self-confident at times. So instead of going for a name that would, you know, fit his quirk, he's gone for the fact, like, you know, being not very self-confident. You can imagine him, you know, back in that episode where they chose their hero names, 1A, you can imagine, like, back then when he was choosing his, that, you know, he was having that doubt in his head, and that's, you know, I'm just somebody who, you know, I'm the Suneater, like, I'm the one that, you know, doesn't shine brightly. I'm the one, you know, that takes the light away, kind of thing. I don't shine. So yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, but I feel like what they were going for, especially from the fact that it makes a hell of a lot more sense why Mirio would be the one that Tamaki grew up with, because they are kind of playing that whole thing of, you know, the brighter the sun, the darker the, you know, the shade, and vice versa, and what, and you kind of like you can't have one without the other, kind of thing. You know, so like they're kind of like, you know, like both sides of the same coin, kind of thing. So it, you know, it makes sense with them too, and going down that route story wise and character wise with those two. We also got Mirio, and this was obviously, I think I talked about this. I must have talked about this in the end of season 3 about Mirio and the fact that, like, he would have to have an outfit made so that he wouldn't go nude. Like, it would have to be permeable like himself, so that when he went, you know, and when he went to permeate, it wouldn't just drop off him. And that's, like, I'm sure I was talking about it. If not, then it must have been like somebody like Blindwave or something that was talking about it. And I was thinking, like, how could they do it though? Like, how could they do it? And the fact that they made it out of his hair, so it's part of him, like, so it will permeate along with him, which is great. Like, I mean, if I was talking about that, I can't believe I didn't like, you know. But then again, I guess I wasn't thinking about it, like. But it's weird to think that it was made out of his hair. How much hair would he have had to shed? And also the fact, like, in order to get enough for that costume, how far in the you know, how far in the past would he have had to, you know, like, you would have had to have thought about this, like, years and years ago in order to get this, right? It seemed like the hairstyle that he did have when he was younger, which I quite liked, by the way. Actually, I wouldn't mind if that was actually his permanent haircut. I get it's probably not going to be the case, but, you know, because with the one that he has, I don't mind it. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it. It's just that, you know, by having, like, it's not a hairstyle that I really have sort of seen before in anime. You know, where it's kind of like, you know, it's normal. It's kind of like my hair here, but he's, like, kind of got it, you know, wrapped up in a very, you know, for the length of hair that he actually has, a ponytail, like, that comes out sort of like the side, you know, which, you know, I quite like. I think it sort of suits him as well. But, you know, it seemed like he had a bit more, I guess, longer hair then. So I wonder if that is something like the creator thought about, like, because he would have had to have, like, the hair that is woven into it, that is made, like, the whole costume would have to fit the whole thing, like, the whole thing would have to be his hair, right? Like, it can't be, like, intertwined with other materials, like, because, like, other threads and things, because then when he permeated, the threads would just drop out. So the whole thing has to be made out of his hair. Maybe I'm just not supposed to take it, like, this seriously. It's just like, you know, stop over logicking it. You know, but I don't know. It just is what it is. So Mimic. That's something I wasn't expecting either. That's a crazy one. So he can jump into and become and control the object that he jumps into. I wonder to what degree he can do that. Like, could he do that to a living thing? I wonder. Because that would be insane if he could. I mean, that's a question. The drug that they give themselves, to accentuate their quirk and stuff. The question that I have is whether or not does it just make the quirk that you have stronger, or does it allow you to, does it vary your quirk up a bit to a point that you couldn't previously do? So, for instance, if Mimic before, he could only control smaller objects and stuff like that, and he couldn't do living things. But if he was to take the drug, not only does it make it stronger, meaning that he can control bigger objects and stuff, but could he control living things now? It's the question that I have. I wonder if it's just a quick strengthener, or it sort of extends your quirk out a bit and it allows you to do more things. I wonder. Hopefully they sort of answer that. I'd imagine once they get a sample of that we might get some information regarding that and what the capabilities are, because obviously they got the bullet, and the sample of that, and they figured out, we've got a lot of information regarding that. So I hope the same goes for the drug when they get that as well. But yeah, that's a crazy. The fact that he was able to, of course, because of the drug, he was able to control essentially the whole building. It's crazy. I was wondering if he could. I think it's clear that even though he took the drug, because the place was so big, I still feel like he had to focus kind of on one thing, and that's the reason why he wasn't helping out in the Tamaki fight with the three other guys, right? Because Tamaki even said that at one point, I'm surprised that Mimic's not helping out here. So it makes me wonder that he was focusing on something else, obviously opening up. The fact that he can open up other pathways and stuff and escape routes and shit is fuck. I mean, it's crazy. I was thinking could he use it to just entrap people within a wall? Because at that point, I would figure that he was the most unstoppable person in that building. Because if he entrapped, and I know it's just one of those things where it's just oh yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda, it would have been too easy this way. It's like the whole Lord of the Rings, why didn't they just fly the griffins over Mount Doom and drop the ring in debates that. He could have just made a tiny space and trapped them within it until they've run out of oxygen. But also I wonder. It's surely you could crush them between walls and stuff, right? I was almost questioning myself there, because I was oh, but wait a minute, what if when he becomes the object, maybe the object that he's controlling loses some of its natural attributes, maybe it's maybe it's not as rigid as what the walls would have been. But the fact is that they were everyone was standing on the floor, and the floor was being moved as well. So it makes me think that anything he becomes, the material keeps its its attributes that it had before you controlled it. So theoretically, you should be able to just crush people between the walls and stuff, right? I don't know. And it's interesting as well. Aizawa, they asked him to do something regarding Mimic, and he said, he needs to see the body. And so I wrote that down because the question is, if Mimic jumps into the thing, is that not now his body? I mean, I guess, because I figured it would be, because it's almost like that becomes his body, right? So I guess that just doesn't. I mean, I guess not, because otherwise those Aizawa would have been able to do something. But it's an interesting thing, like, considering the fact he controlled like he was his own body. I'd figured that would just become his body kind of thing, you know, while he was in there. But I guess not. We had I think it was you, Hojo, that said that he confirmed that Aizawa was an inferior version of Eri. So that's the confirmation there. You know, beforehand it was kind of just, you know, I guess it was like kind of laid out anyway, and it was, you know, it was kind of 99% that, you know, that Eri was, you know, or that Overhaul was using Eri's DNA in order to, you know, make these bullets. But it's a confirmation, and also the fact is that with them saying it's an inferior version of Eri, means that Eri's quirk, at its fullest potential, which, you know, I'd imagine obviously loses that when it goes into the bullets, is to completely get rid of somebody's quirk. Now, I've got to wonder how it works with her. There's got to be some limitations. There has to be. Like, there has to be maybe like certain conditions she needs to do in order for that to be the case. Because otherwise I would be saying, then why hasn't she gotten rid of Overhaul's quirk? You know. Now I know she probably. I mean, well, she's a little girl, so she would probably be scared like to do that. I suppose. I guess that could be, you know, just what it is. You know, I mean, because even if she was to, if that is her quirk and she's able to completely get rid of somebody's quirk and delete their quirk essentially, like, she's still just a little girl and she doesn't really have any physical sort of, you know, capabilities. If that is her quirk, that's all she has. Like, even if she was to get rid of Overhaul's quirk, there's nothing stopping Overhaul from hurting her anyway. So I guess that could possibly be the case. You know, but I could because otherwise I could see like a story thing where people would not want to go near Eri. They kind of already did that whole thing of like people not really wanting to look after Eri because if something goes wrong, they end up, like, Overhaul ends up killing them for it. So I you know, they did that whole thing. But I would like to see like some of the like low level Shihei Saikai mafia and whatnot, like, you know, like chat between themselves and being like, oh, you know what I mean, like scared to go near her because of what she could do and, you know, delete that quirk, like get rid of that quirk and stuff. But yeah. What else? Yeah, so the whole fight and everything like that, and the three guys, basically, you know, pointing out that, you know, I love the fact, like, when you have the monologues that, like, the bad guys do, that you would normally see from actually the protagonists or the heroes of the show or whatever, but you see like the villains do it, and like they hype it up to be like, you know, like this is my ideology, this is why we are the way we are, you know what I mean, and they're so vindictive about it, you know, and I just, you know, I can never take it seriously when they do it, because I'm just like, yeah, but you're a dick, you know what I mean? So I just completely write off the whole reason of why you're doing it. You know, just because you have a bond, you know, and you've been through some tough shit, doesn't give you the right to be a dickhead about it, you know. So I kind of just wrote it off when they were talking about it. But it's just funny that they are going through, you know, each of the three guys, and they're like, he was fucked over by his ex-missus, you know, and I was fucked over because my crystals were fake or something like that, you know. and they were used. So that's why I'm fighting for this guy who's using me. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, nothing they were saying. I didn't get on board with anything they were saying because it was kind of just hypocritical. I mean, even Tamaki, like, shouted out, it's like, what, so you're okay with being used then? like, you know, the fact is that you're pissed off because you were being used. So, instead, so you're just gonna, you know, you're gonna negate, like, I get that, like, they don't see it as, like, they're being used. And I was actually thinking, like, during the reaction of this episode, I was thinking, like, do they know that they are expendable? You know, or is it just Overhaul? And you know, you know, because that's not gonna. I mean, for morale, that isn't gonna be good. Like, if you know that you're expendable, like, that can't be good. So I guess the idea is that they don't know that they are expendable, and therefore they don't think they're being used, and they just see the whole thing of like Overhaul pulled me out of the shit, and therefore I own one. You know, it's just one of those things. But it's clear that that's the sort of thing that they're going for across the Sheihei Saikai, is the bond, or the, you know, like the sort of brotherhood that they kind of have. Because a few episodes ago, when we had the Kirishima thing, the guy who was, you know, he was like sort of crying and whatnot because he wanted to desperately help out his friends and stuff, right? So it, you know, they've taken it from that, and then, you know, you've got it here, 2 examples already, and it's interesting that they're building that between the lower level thugs and whatnot, whereas at the top, Overhaul doesn't see that at all. Like, it's a completely opposite thing. It's like, you know, like, you don't mean anything to me, you know what I mean? Like, go do your job and give me time to get the fuck out of here, kind of thing. And, you know, Kirishima was saying that when he, you know, he did his whole manly thing, that he likes to, you know, that's not very manly at all. You know, and you know, even he pointed it out. So so I think actually it's like the perfect time. And I did notice in the fucking preview, because I was expecting a fucking end credit scene. They've had one for like every fucking episode this season. I was like, there's definitely another one. You know what I mean? They're just going to do end credit scenes for all of the episodes. And then the fucking preview came up. I was completely caught off guard, and I saw that the next episode is actually called Red Riot. So we're getting another episode pretty much dedicated to Kirishima, and I am not, honestly, I'm not complaining in the slightest, because he's really like stepping up. I mean, I liked him before. You know, I've liked him pretty much since the beginning. He never really did much until the back end of season 1, I think. It was kind of when he was fighting with Bakugo, in season 1, episode 10 or 11, one of those. And then, you know, and when you had All Might go up against Nomu, you had the 4 sort of the 4 guys there. You had Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and then Kirishima was there. And of course he was like the sort of like the odd one out at the time, because obviously, like, you know, you had Todoroki, who was set up, at this point he was kind of like setting up to be like, yeah, he's a big deal. Obviously Bakugo and Deku, of course, would have been there because they're the 2 sort of, you know, like, you know, sides of the coin, the 2 sort of big protagonists of the show. And Kirishima was sort of like, you know, off like in the background, or off to the side, you know, and not really being able to do much. And actually, that being said, like, you know, a few episodes ago when I was talking about Kirishima, and I was saying that, you know, the whole thing that's being brought up of the fact that he doesn't feel like, it's interesting that he was paired with Tamaki, because I suppose Tamaki sees Kirishima as bright, and shines like the sun as well. But Kirishima sees it within himself that maybe he's just not, like, he doesn't have what it takes, or, like, you know, he doesn't have a flashy quirk, and, you know, Kirishima's been having those problems with his, you know, quirk wise, whilst Tamaki has it with his mental side, and it's kind of like those 2 are very like sort of opposite ends as well. A lot of the flipping the coin, like a lot of the two sides of the same coin thing going on in this episode. These episodes. And but I mean Kirishima, he's been like a side character for a lot of the anime, but he does have like he's definitely gotten like more time to shine than I guess other characters in the class. Like he did well in the sports festival and everything. He didn't really at the beginning of season 3 in the camp because obviously he was unable to do anything because he had the extra studies and stuff to do, right? And he was under teacher supervision. They wouldn't let him go. So even though he wanted to, so even though he couldn't do anything, then he had the Camino Ward thing where he obviously went with Deku, Momo, Ida, and Todoroki, to help there. But like when I talk about like when I say he's a side character, what I mean is like I don't mean like a side character of the whole group. I'm talking about like of the main characters. He's always he's been like to the side, and I think it was written that way on purpose because it shows so subtly that the reason why Kirishima doesn't feel like he is up there with the rest of them, because he's he's not doing as much as the other ones are doing, the other characters. So it's the perfect time for him to get his big like outbreak sort of moment in this arc. I feel like because he, the whole like bond thing that they keep bringing up in this arc it works well, I feel like, in the sort of the story that we've got going on with the bonds and stuff and sort of and everything like that. So yeah, I can't wait for next episode, and hopefully we get more insight into what that flashback was where Mina was a part of, because that had to have been, I'd imagine it was something that had happened before they went to UA and Mina and Kirishima were in the same school, or it was something that had happened outside of school, but it's I mean, if that was the case, it's interesting how we haven't seen sort of anything in the background, like where Kirishima and Mina were a bit off with each other. I guess there really hasn't been a time where Kirishima and Mina have had to really talk. So I guess we would have never really have seen it anyway. But it would have been nice to just like see maybe something where the group was together talking or something, and maybe like they shared a look and like there was a bit of just something to like sink your teeth in like beforehand. So you were like, wait a minute, what happened there? And then later on, and then you have like this backstory thing that happens with Kirishima, and you realise what happened, what's gone on. It could also be a thing like, because obviously I don't know the ins and outs, so I don't know what the backstory or the like what happened there, that maybe Mina just doesn't see it as a bad thing, therefore there's no reason for Mina to have like any sort of drama with Kirishima about it. So who knows? But I can't wait, because yeah, he's like, Kirishima's really like soaring up there in my favorite characters, and I suppose it does help that you've got a lot of the other bigger, more prominent characters over the past series that have sort of taken a back seat. Ida, Todoroki, and Bakugo are basically like they're like nowhere to be seen these episodes. This season they've been pretty much non-existent. You've had Bakugo, who's basically just been there every time he comes on screen. It's like he crops up just so you don't forget that he's still around, just to say tell me what you've been learning. You know what I mean? You're getting way too far ahead of me, kind of thing. And he shouts all of that. Todoroki's been very quiet, and yeah, Ida has as well. So, but it's good. It's good because it really is a testament to the strength of the characters in the show. And the fact is that they are, to me, characters is like the biggest thing about a story. Like, they're the ones that drive it forward. And you'll see, like, in a lot of media, there are some like, shows and movies and whatever where the focus is entirely on like just the main characters, and sometimes the main characters can only like consist of maybe it's like 3-4 people, and the rest of them are just fodder, like tools to move the story forward. Whereas I feel like with this show, the cast is so strong. Like, there are so many characters that you care about in the show. And considering the vast number of them, the fact that they're able to find time to have dedicated episodes to some of the characters is incredible. So, and they all get the time to shine. It's really cool. So yeah, I can't wait until next episode. Because he's fucking Kirishima, man. He's definitely he's climbing the ranks very quickly. So we'll wait and see what happens next week. And I can't wait. So that is all I've got. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there. And I also have a Patreon page as well. So if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier for $5 a month. Gives you access to shows a week early. And you get 4 episodes of Hunt x Hunt every week as well. So you can enjoy that. There is also the $10 there for full length. So if you do want to watch my full length reaction unedited to either this episode or other shows and not like all of that good stuff, then you can go get that. And there's also other tiers where you can pay to have a show reacted to. So if you want me to react to a show or anything like that, then you can go have a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.